Hello, I'm Pam Hoffman, Everyday Spacer.
I'm Jeff Miller, 2049 Outfitters.
At Everyday Spacer, we show regular folks how to personally and directly participate in space exploration, science, and astronomy. We're here on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, 12 midnight Eastern Time, and 3 p.m. on Saturday in Queensland, Australia. We're broadcasting live from Thousand Oaks, California. Thank you so much for joining us.
And tonight's guests, and that's plural, are Chris and Shane of the Actual Astronomy Podcast. We'll be back in 6.8 seconds.
You know it's live when.
Okay, the only information that I was able to get from them, from all of the websites that I found that have Chris and Shane's podcast on it, is Chris and Shane are amateur astronomers. Dang, I'm in holiday mode too. Who share their love of and experiences of observing the night sky. They offer 2 podcast episodes per week from Canada.
Shane, Chris, tell us about yourselves and how you collaborate on the astronomy podcast, how that came to be, what you do, how it works, everything like that. And thanks so much for joining us, folks. Mike Taylor is in Hong Kong and Cliff Watson from Australia. Love having you here, guys. Thank you so much. Go ahead, take it away.
Cool. Well, thanks for having us, Pam. It's really awesome to be on the show. Yeah, we're excited about it.
Yay. Good.
Yeah. Thank you. It's pretty cool. You know, we usually don't do the video things, so this is new to us, and I'm excited.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the podcast that we're doing right now, we started. Well, I think it'll be about 2 years in April. So I guess we're about a year and a half into it.
Cool.
And this version of the podcast is not the first time Chris and I have collaborated on one of these things. But maybe I'll let Chris talk about the first go at it here in a minute. But basically what we did here a year and a half ago was during the lockdown. We were kind of bored at home, and we do a lot of astronomy, and also what we would do back before pandemic days is we would meet up for a beer and just talk about astronomy, or go for a coffee and talk about astronomy.
Nice.
And so we just decided that why don't we start recording this stuff and turn it into a podcast. And I don't know what Chris's expectations were, but when we kicked it off, I sort of thought my wife and maybe my parents would listen to the first maybe the first 2 episodes, and then our listenership would just fall off a cliff, and it would just be Chris and I, just talking online. But it's been a ton of fun. We have a lot of engagement with our listeners.
Cool. I think you have a fan here now, right? Anthony, I'll say it. I can't read it. Albence. Welcome, Anthony.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us.
And another one.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Flying Martini Hurricane.
Cool.
That sounds like a fun fan.
Yeah.
All right. So cool. And so was this like easy to do or hard to do, or how did you guys because you're doing it from your own places. You're not even like we're here and we're together. You're in actually 2 separate places doing this all, right?
Yeah.
We're again, because of the lockdown, when we started this thing off, we were basically isolated in our homes. So we just use like Zoom to record the episodes, and then a few other tools to get it uploaded. It's I think we're at like episode, I don't know, I think this weekend, Chris, what is it, 175?
175 we'll record on Sunday.
Yeah. And honestly, it's still pretty easy. We're not really running out of things to talk about. And, when it comes to astronomy, really, there's just no end to it, especially, visual astronomy and all of the different things that you can see up there.
Yeah, and I know you had written to me and you were interested in telling our audience, about getting started with visual astronomy. You want to get into that now, or is this a good time for that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Do you want me to kind of hop in with some of that, Shane?
Yeah, go for it.
One more person. Is that one of your fans too, Mark Bunnell? Third woman to ever fly. Oh, the third one. Is that Sally Ride? Like from the Earth, like the whole Earth, not just. I think it's Sally Ride. Thanks for the question, Mark. What's up? It's Sally Ride. Because there was Valentina Tereshkova and then Svetlana Savitskaya, and they're both Russians. And then Sally Ride in the 80s. So 20 years later, we jumped in with the women. We could have had a bunch of them before because they call it the Mercury 13, and they actually went through the exact same test from the same doctor that the original Mercury astronauts went through. And in some respects, they did a little bit better. But yeah, NASA put the kibosh on that. They weren't going to have women tested. They weren't going to have women flying. So yeah, yes, Mark. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Getting started with visual astronomy. Let's go.
Yeah. So one of the things that people often associate with astronomy is this business of telescopes. And, when I'm teaching my class, I teach an astronomy class similar to what you teach, Pam. And sometimes Shane comes and guest lectures or helps out with it. And we go down to the national park and do some events down there. But you really don't need a telescope to get started in astronomy, which kind of surprises a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people actually have binoculars for other reasons. Like my grandmother gave me my first pair of binoculars, and sometimes people have them for watching birds. And between your just visually your eyes, using your naked eyes and binoculars, that's a terrific. You've got 2 out of the 3 things you can use right there. So. Yeah,
and just like learning your way around the sky, like that's one thing we try to focus on is just like a lot of the stars and constellations you can just see with your eyes. And, like you said, like basic binoculars, like these are just my, basic 7x35s, and binoculars like that are super easy just to pick up and learn because people are already familiar with how they work. You get this correct view of the world. You also get this correct oriented view of the night sky as well, versus like with a telescope. Typically it's going to rearrange that view somehow, and people find that a little bit disorienting. And even still sometimes when we're observing we can get disoriented by that too. So by sticking to kind of things that people are familiar with and then kind of building on that and kind of filling it in with some of the other tools, like some of the other really simple things people can use is like making these little red flashlights. I don't know if you do this in your class, but I don't know where you buy these down in California, but we have a place called Canadian Tire here. I'm kind of thinking you probably don't have Canadian Tires in the States.
No. Not this far south, at least.
But here you can buy these packs of these cheap little lights. They're about $1 each. And then what we do, it might be hard to see on this one, but I've taken some red duct tape and just stuck it to the end. You take a layer or 2, and then that makes a pretty good light to use on your star charts at night. And we make recommendations for different charts people can use. But one set of charts that's really good that we recommend here is in the book Night Watch by Terrence Dickinson. I don't know if you've ever taken a look at Night Watch before.
It sounds very familiar to me. I don't know that I've looked at it, but hey, David, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, welcome, David.
Comes from Canada.
No, just some of the more recent guests. Yes.
So he's asking about does your podcast include information for observers in the Southern Hemisphere?
Well, admittedly, we have a very strong focus on Northern Hemisphere because that's where we are. But once in a while, we talk a little bit about some objects or things more so, I guess, events that are observable in the Southern Hemisphere. Like if there's maybe an eclipse or a partial eclipse, we'll note it. But I don't think, Chris, we really get into a lot of detail about Southern Hemisphere objects.
Yeah, not as much, simply because it's not what we're as familiar with, being here in the Northern Hemisphere and the observing that we do. However, we do have several listeners that are in the Southern Hemisphere. We have listeners in Brazil and Australia and a few different places. And so if they write us and are telling stuff about that, then we will include that. And one thing we do quite a bit, Shane, as you know, is we'll read listener emails quite a bit, and our interactions with the listeners is really a highlight of doing the podcast for us. It's really a lot of fun to hear from people, hear what people are observing. So we do get a few people that are writing us from the Southern Hemisphere now, and then we'll include that kind of material in there. So there is some Southern Hemisphere content for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very hard to know something you don't know. I mean, I've never been to Australia, and I've never been really anywhere south of the equator. And it's really hard for me to understand things. I mean, it's the same would be said for someone who's from the southern hemisphere. They would have a hard time, understanding what the Big Dipper looks like. And I mean, I came from northern Ohio, and it's always in the night sky. It's never below the horizon. And out here in Southern California, it does that, and it's very weird.
Yeah.
But having never seen it, it would be like, oh, that happens? How? It's not something you really kind of know. So
yeah,
and I think it's really kind of better to talk about what you know.
Yeah, there is a little overlap, though, of course, because, the celestial equator cuts through just like below Orion's belt there. So, anything below that would be visible from the southern hemisphere. And so there's a little bit of overlap.
Yeah, the 88, the best selection.
They have the best selection. Okay.
Naturally.
So, someone's a bit biased, David.
Naturally, they have the best selection. Well, that's the beauty of the night sky. Anywhere you go, you can find something wonderful. I mean, I like the little tiny thing like Delphinus, and of course, one of my favorites is the Big Dipper because it was so easy to find from Cleveland, from northern Ohio, where I'm from. So, yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah.
I always used to like the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, kind of the way they
kind of pour into each other.
But of course, when I was a kid in the 70s, you could actually see the Little Dipper out here.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit more light than there used to be.
Yeah, but surprisingly, as close to Los Angeles as we are, I can get to our national park and see the Milky Way galaxy still. So everything's upside down and back to front in Australia. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We got a delay there. Sorry.
What's that?
I was just going to say, how far from the national park and dark skies are you from?
Let's see. It's about a 20-minute drive from here. So.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it's very nice, and it's like right at the end of all the houses, and there's a stable with it's quite open, and of course over the ocean, it's very dark. It's kind of like a nice north-south column, and like in the summer with the Milky Way galaxy right through there, it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's pretty dark if it's dry.
Yeah.
If there's moisture in the air, then you get the LA Nebula.
I'm from Ohio. Wonderful here. No matter what. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it rains sometimes, so.
Because we're about 40 minutes out from LA.
Oh, okay.
So we're pretty close.
We always talk driving time. Miles are almost since who cares? Because it's like how long does it take to drive there? That's the biggie.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, I love that area.
Yeah.
I stood out there the other day and just had my little cell phone, and I'm holding it, and I take a picture of the teapot, and I'm like, wow, because it has like a night mode, so it's probably, I don't know, a second and a half open, but I was shocked at how good it turned out. Just to hold the little cell phone there and take a picture.
Yeah,
cool.
And would like both your opinions for newbies. Get a lot of people asking about scopes like you do, I guess. What's your recommendation for a beginning? Alt or alt azimuth mount?
Well, I definitely think alt az, like that's sort of one thing, alt az mounts. That's sort of like the back and forth, up, down, very basic mounts, like your typical Dobsonian mounts. The scope that I recommend is those little 80 millimeter f5s. I think those make awesome, and they're refractors. They make awesome beginner scopes because they're reasonably high quality and they have a really wide field of view. Makes it super easy for finding stuff, and they're small, lightweight, make a great travel scope. So, a lot of the time people upgrade to a larger telescope eventually, and then they can kind of keep that one around for traveling. And and they can be mounted even to like a photographic tripod. So Orion sells it. Used to be called like the ST80. I think they re-released it as the ST80. But yeah, that's always been my recommendation. I have a couple of them around here. I should have brought one up here and stuck it up, but then I'd be trouncing Shane and his micro pencil telescope there. So
that's right.
Anyway,
yeah.
You go ahead, Shane.
Well, what I love is
Yeah, you shouldn't be dissing Shane on his pencil telescope.
It's an awesome little telescope. It's really good.
But and the optics now are terrific. I was so blown away because a lot of the stuff I had used was quite old. And then I won a spotting scope. And I looked through that and I was so surprised at how good it was. The optics of it were just terrific. And I do like that, I call it what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like half a binocular, so it's a terrific little. Just set it up and go. I mean, it's lightweight, like you said. It doesn't cost a lot.
Oh yeah. Cliff and David were actually in California.
2017 for the total solar eclipse.
Yeah, they were traveling through, and so
that's how we met them.
So Cliff saw the Big Dipper, and was.
I think that was the first time.
Yeah,
either one
because it's
not the Big Dipper yet.
Not seen from the southern hemisphere.
Right. You can't see that at all from the southern hemisphere. Yeah. Sadly, that's.
And David meant azimuth.
Is
not
Arizona.
No, not.
Well,
not
there's kind of two mounts. It's altazimuth, which is kind of like a lazy Susan, and then up and down, or polar aligned. So I'm not sure. David, you have to explain that to us.
Yeah, and. Do you recommend roboscopes for newbies?
Here we go.
You take that one, Shane.
Yeah. I usually don't. My recommendation is just to get a full manual telescope. Any of the computer-driven ones, even for an experienced observer, can be a little bit of a pain to use. Yep. And there's two aspects to that. Number one is you have to align them. So you just can't take this thing out and start observing. You have to wait for some bright stars to show up. You have to align them out for Polaris. There's a lot of things there that kind of are, between you and observing, which is frustrating. And then if at 2 a.m, when it's really dark out and somebody walks by and kicks your tripod, your alignment is gone and you got to do it again. And I guess also then you have to, one other point is you have to have power. So, you need batteries or extension cords, and it just adds to the whole thing. Now, if you're doing some planetary observing with really high power, having a driven mount or a tracking mount is awesome. It is really handy. But for new folks, I usually say just stay away from those, at least initially, and stick with the manual mount.
Yeah. I found that we can be observing while they're for like 10 minutes while they're still setting up their roboscope.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then I remember a guy out in the park, not ours, but another one. He's like, "Oh, the time changed," so he had to like reconfigure things or something.
Yeah.
And I'm a point and shoot kind of person. I just want to look now.
Yeah. I'm the same. I love the simplicity of just an alt-az mount and a telescope tied to it.
I have a feeling that's why John Dobson created the Dobson. Well, we call it the Dobsonian now, but I mean, it was very simple and very easy to construct. It's really hard to get, simpler than that, I think.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet John Dobson?
I did actually meet him one time at Griffith Observatory. They have a regular event with I think it's the astronomy something of the Pacific. I'd have to look it up.
We invited him to our star party in Nova Scotia when I lived there, and he came, and so I spent 3 days with him.
Nice.
This is back, cool. I think about 12 or 13 years ago now. Yeah, it was amazing. I remember I was standing there. I'm like, that's John Dobson. He was walking along. He was picking dandelions off the lawn and eating them.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, what's David got for us?
Oh. Are you northern chaps finding an increased interest in astronomy over say the last 12 months? I'm inferring to the COVID restrictions. You couldn't buy a scope here for almost a year, sold out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For sure. This was just dumb luck on our part too, of starting a podcast at the start of the pandemic. I think that helped us get quite a few listeners. Like I say, it was dumb luck for the timing, because I think a lot of people were looking for things to do that they could probably do in their backyard or do by themselves, and just get them out of the house, change things up a bit. And, I believe that pretty much everybody has an interest in the night sky, just as, as we grow up as children, you see the moon, you get fascinated by it. If you're fortunate enough to look through a telescope and see Saturn or something like that, it really galvanizes it for you. So I think some folks kind of later in life, during the pandemic, thought, hey, I'm interested in astronomy, and bought telescopes and started pointing them at the sky.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like my astronomy class was canceled. So I did a class, and actually Shane was the guest speaker on the last class that I ever did in person, on the last class of the last class. And then we started talking about maybe doing a podcast anyway. We're just kicking the idea around. And then, of course, when the lockdown came, we're like, let's do it. And so my next class was canceled. And then they called me in the summer and they were like, we have a lot of interest in astronomy. I'm like, all right, well, like we can do it online or whatever. So I went from having like, I think 8 or 10 people in my classes to having like 40 to 60.
Wow, that's amazing.
It
Cool.
was a huge jump. So there's been just a tremendous sort of rejuvenation in the interest in astronomy. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, really neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to get replaced. I mean, we went from phonograph, record players and records and CDs and pictures and all that to having the little box.
Oh.
So, but experiences you can't really replace. So yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
Cliff.
Yes, podcast. Yes. I have it here.
We give a link. Yeah.
Hello.
He also had a question. Have you done any light painting since I showed you in 2017? So I think he's talking.
You're going to have to clarify for me. So here's the podcast website, right?
Yeah, we have 2 sites. So you can go to this one right here, and it has a list of all of our podcasts. We have another website, just actualastronomy.com. And that site, we do post occasional references. So things that support what we're talking about, although that's not every episode. But really, like just about any podcast app that you have on your phone will have us on there too. So if you just search for Actual Astronomy, you'll find us.
Or even if you go to Google, I went to Google today just to see what happened, and I put Actual Astronomy in, or put astronomy podcasts in a Google search, and it gives you a bar of all the top hits for astronomy podcasts, and we were right in the middle, right where I wanted to see us. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Very cool. And I think Jeff's adding the links to the chat for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I think I have a feeling we went off track. You were talking about getting started with visual astronomy. All right. Astronomy to start. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen your ads, David. That's wonderful.
Yeah. 2 weeks he's heading an astronomy tour group called Stargazing to Norfolk Island, 2,000 kilometers off the coast of Australia. How about Bortle -1 skies?
Yeah, it's the Bortle scale of how dark the things you can see in the dark
that'll
skies.
be nice.
Yeah,
I
don't know. I don't remember exactly how it works, but that's probably pretty good with that location. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I gauged ours once at something I forget. Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah, I don't quite get that. So I've not done that. I've never done that, Cliff. Have you guys done that? You kind of like have trees in there and you light them up and you get the starry sky in the background. It's a surrealistic painting thing, I think. A surrealistic movement.
Yeah.
Huh. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, when Cliff was here, he was doing that for some of the folks doing the photographs there. We had pretty good start parties there for a while, and then things kind of stopped and trying to build things up again. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Anyway, yes, getting started with visual astronomy. What else do you want to tell us about that?
Well, a great thing you can use for visual astronomy and getting started is this seems like a strange thing. It's a reclining lawn chair. So this is one thing that we use quite a bit, is these really comfortable. You can get them now at Canadian Tire again. Like that's the only store we have in Canada, apparently, in my mind. And you can buy these at any like good camping or generic camping outlet store, even like Walmart. I was in Hawaii once and I was able to pick one up in a Walmart in Hawaii. And you can get these chairs that just recline now, and they're great. You take your binoculars, you just kick back and you point them at the Milky Way and just scan along there. And you were talking about seeing the Milky Way, which is great because if you can get to a place that's dark enough to see it, and you've got your handy little binoculars there, even if you don't know that much about finding stuff in the nighttime sky, if you just take your binoculars and scan along the Milky Way, you'll run into like star clusters and nebulae and, just the bands of the Milky Way and everything like that. And, that's just a really cool experience to have under a dark sky. Like, someone was saying they're going to a Bortle class 1 sky, and you get under those skies. And honestly, when we get out to our dark sites, that's what we do. We kick back with the binoculars and kind of use our eyes about a third of the time and the binoculars about a third of the time, and then spend about a third of the time looking through our own telescope. So yeah, that's kind of what we do. And you can even stabilize your binoculars if you have one of these, which is just a cheap, it's about a $15 L bracket. You can get any good astronomy store, or probably even on Amazon these days. And you just sort of attach your binoculars to it, put on a standard tripod, and then that raises your game to a really higher level, because the binoculars will be nice and stable. You get a really nice steady view through them when you do that.
Yeah, right. I had one of those. It walked away one night, I think. I don't know. Yeah, you have people come around and stuff happens, but that's okay. All right, looks like another one of your fans, Ryan McKee.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Chris and Shane, love the podcast. My question is, what prompted you both to switch from larger reflectors to refractors?
Yeah,
we get this a lot. Yeah. We're really strange, I think, because when you get into this hobby, I'm sure a lot of people watching right now have heard of aperture fever. You start with whatever size telescope, you look through larger telescopes, and you want to buy a bigger telescope. And
Yep.
that was me. I started with an 8-inch Skywatcher Dobsonian. Loved that telescope, but I started to crave bigger aperture. So I ended up with a 12-inch Meade Light Bridge, and had some amazing views through that telescope. But it just got to the point where I was getting kind of frustrated, I guess, a little bit with like the setup, the collimation, and not that that's difficult, but like the collimation thing, I was probably, this is my own fault, but a bit of I just couldn't tolerate anything slightly misaligned. So I would end up even collimating 2 or 3 times a night, because as temperatures change, the trusses will shift a little bit. So anyway, it became a bit of a chore. And because that 12-inch light bridge was so large, I actually wasn't using it as much, because it was a real commitment to set that thing up. Or if I was traveling to, pack it and take it out and do all that stuff. And it was right around that time that I think Chris moved here and joined our local astronomy club. And he still has the 5-inch Borg refractor that I looked through. And it just blew my mind, because actually a lot of the astronomers around here don't have refractors. It's either Cassegrains or Dobsonians. And looking through that refractor was just phenomenal. The wide field, the just pinpoint stars. I really fell in love with the view. And then when you add on just kind of the ease, especially like that little, hold it, that one. Yeah, somewhere back there. This is weird. That little 50 millimeter behind me, like it's not going to blow up galaxies for you, but it's a great telescope to use. It's super easy to, move around the yard. So that's just, one example of my refractors. But anyway, I'm rambling a bit. That's how I went from big telescopes to little telescopes. And I don't think I'm going to go smaller than 50, though. I think that's small enough.
The other thing is that we're fortunate to have friends, and I've always had friends with larger instruments. Like our friend Mike here, he's got a 12-inch telescope, so we get to look through that lot. So if I'm writing an article and I need some larger aperture views, then Mike will kindly bring it out. He'll bring it out anytime I want to have a larger telescope at hand. And then back when I lived in Ontario, I had friends with like 16 to 25-inch telescopes. So I get to spend tons of time with large aperture. And, they always say the best large telescope is one that's owned by your best friend, right? And that is so true, right? And
it's like a boat. It should be owned by your best friend.
Yeah, and it's great. So what I've done is I've gravitated towards having really high performance refractors that show the planets, in a way that, refractors, can definitely give you a crisp view especially when the seeing conditions aren't as good, because they're looking through a smaller column of air. And then you can also get really wide field of views with them that just aren't possible through longer focal length instruments. So my friends have always appreciated it, even those with the really giant telescopes, because you can get these really huge field of views with the refractors. And like my little Takahashi, the little 100 millimeter will do like 350 or 400 power on the planets, which is really, an amazing view that you can get through these tiny telescopes. So, it's just really cool just to be able to grab them and throw them up so quick. Like when I first was observing with Shane, we'd go out observing and he'd still be putting the truss poles in his telescope, and I'd be on my third or fourth object of the night. And when we go out, sometimes it's pretty darn cold, like -20 is not that uncommon here to go observing out in the winter. And, if you're spending 10 or 15 minutes trying to get a telescope set up, you're really reducing the time you're going to observe, and you're going to be frozen by the time you're even looking at anything.
I think the glass is so good now because with all the computers, and they can really, really produce excellent optic equipment now. I mean, they just can make better equipment.
Yeah, even our little spotter has
it's
excellent
amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Even really inexpensive like achromats, like the ST80 that I recommend, is like around $100 to $200 telescope. And I think the views through those are just fantastic, for people to get started with. And with a little telescope like that only costs a couple $100, you can see, the shadows of the moons of Jupiter as they're having a shadow transit, like we're going to have at the end of December. And you can see those shadows making their way across the disk of Jupiter. And you can see like the Andromeda galaxy and the double cluster and rings of Saturn and all those kind of things, all the main things that people are going to want to look at. You can see with these little telescopes. You don't need to buy like a big honking telescope. But yeah, it is cool. Like I do love the views through the large telescopes. Like I was out with my friend Mike there last month and looking at Andromeda with a new eyepiece, and it was pretty good. Yeah, -20. That's where it starts to get, the weather starts to get nice at -20. But I've actually gone out and done binocular observing down to -46, which is the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's great. There's no mosquitoes. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Being in Michigan, yes, the same mosquito territory that you guys are in.
Yeah, Ohio too. I remember. I had a thought. So, couple things. If you ever get down this way, let's try and get you to Mount Wilson. I have been there to observe with the 60-inch telescope.
Oh wow!
I have not used the Hooker telescope, which is 100 inches diameter. I have heard it's not as good as you expect. So.
Huh.
With a grain of salt. And then we have a professor here at the local college, at Moore Park College, and he has a little saying. His name is Hal Jandorf, and he says the best telescope is the one you use.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you've got the kind that you're going to pull out all the time and use it, that's
right.
the right one.
Yeah. And the little telescope Shane has there, like he uses that all the time. Like it just, it's nothing to haul a little telescope out. And I actually have one it's the same size. It's just like half the length, and it's the same thing. Like you get a little clear spot in the clouds and you have a new eyepiece you want to test out, and within 30 seconds you're outside looking at something. It's really, really fun to use these small scopes.
I forgot about the clear spot in the clouds. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's so amazing here. People are like, oh, the seeing is so bad, and I'm like, but you can see.
Yeah. You're not playing with the sucker holes. Yeah.
You know what? I'm very easy on night sky. If I can see anything, I'm good.
Yeah.
Anything at all.
It's not like so where we live in Canada, this is probably about one of the clearest places that you can live. So our sky is clear about 40% of the time, I think, give or take.
That's good.
There's usually a little bit of sun every day. Yeah, it's really nice. So I've lived in other parts of Canada, and this is definitely the clearest place. The downside is it can get a little bit chilly in the wintertime. So
yeah, that's really hard on the thing I found was just my eyes would weep with the wind and stuff, and it's just you can't really do anything with that either.
Yeah.
It's hard to do something with that.
Yeah, the tube of my 5-inch has a crack in it from the -40 night we were out in, and you find out funny things. So we move here. We're doing astronomy one night. I think we were observing Shane, and my car was reading -30, and it was really bothering me. And I was like, oh, geez, I'm getting wimpy in my old age. But it was actually -40. It just, the car only went down to -30.
Looks like another one of your fans. Hi, Clark. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
Small
good stuff.
one of my pieces.
Offer
the
wide field of view. Yeah.
the optics now are just, the modern optics I find are just fantastic. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Hey, Clark. Clark's a good friend.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So, anything else on the getting started with visual astronomy we should know? I love the idea with the chair. Although I have a feeling I might fall asleep. I have to be careful of that. I'm a little more active. So,
What do you think, Shane? Did we miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all pretty well.
good
And
tips.
nothing beats a dark sky. If you can get away from some of the lights, that helps.
Yeah.
Although if you can't, don't think you can't do astronomy. From light polluted backyards, the moon and the planets are still great. You don't need dark skies for them. And if you do have, I guess even some double stars would be visible through binoculars. But if you have a telescope, double stars are great things to look for from light polluted centers. Again, you don't need dark skies for that. So I always like to mention it just because I think some people think if they live in light polluted areas that they just can't do astronomy, but there are options. You can look at some pretty cool things.
Yeah.
And I like looking for the space station, and that you can see that from almost anywhere in the world, and can be very, very bright.
Yeah.
So what do you got, Cliff?
Oh, Cliff is Bortle 2 to 3 at his place.
When the weather's
When the weather's good. He's got weather like you guys do.
and I love it. He'll say, "I got some equipment." Of course, it's raining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Cliff.
Yeah.
Hey,
Adirondack
so
astronomy.
Yeah.
It's getting cold here in the Northeast. What's the number one thing you recommend to keep warm?
Good.
Polypropylene. It's kind of like wetsuit. It's like almost like a wetsuit material, and I have a whole suit that I put on, and then I put like my lined pants and my down parka and everything over it. And but yeah, polypropylene. Anyway, that's the thing that I learned. I didn't know what it was, but when I went out to the store and asked them when I moved here, they were like, "This is what you need." And I'm like, "Whoa, it's expensive, but it really works." I think it's like $50 to $80, just for a top or a bottom. But yeah, polypropylene underwear is amazing. And then of course, like your down layers and stuff like that. And then having extra gloves and boots and stuff like that, keeping them warm somewhere, and then being able to switch out. So like I was observing, it was only like -10 the other night, and I came in and switched shoes, even just because getting a brand new warm pair of shoes on your feet makes a huge difference as well. But the best thing you can get though is a place at a dark site that you can heat up and stay warm in. So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
The other thing I recommend.
Place. Yeah. Go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
Sorry. The other thing that I do personally, and I think I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast, is I always dress for 20 degrees colder than what the advertised temperature is going to be.
You can always take stuff off.
Well, yeah, and I even underestimate sometimes, and I've been doing this a while, but underestimate how cold you get when you're not moving.
Yeah.
Like just walking, you generate a lot of body heat and it keeps you warm. But when you're just standing at a telescope, you cool off fast. And the other aspect is the wind. Now, where Chris and I live, wind is always present. So, you're always looking also to get out of the wind because even like a 10 kilometer an hour breeze, that's enough to really put the chill right through you. So we're always looking for trees or vehicles that we can use as windbreaks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Clark says dark skies trumps aperture.
For sure.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time looking through Clark's 12-inch telescope. So.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Oh, and Cliff. Oh, yeah. Cliff has been doing presentations on light pollution.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What
and
else? Snowboarding. Oh, a snowboarding suit. Okay.
Yeah, that'll help you out.
Yeah.
Sure.
I wear a windbreaker.
Yeah.
You just look at the snow on the mountain, though, honey.
Yeah, that won't get you far out here.
Nope.
All right, what you got, David? Keep our big jobs due free. Yep. Oh, hand warmer packs. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Around the bottom of the tube.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. With ice, that's not going to help, David.
Where he is, it might. I thought I saw one more.
Yeah.
This is good. Thanks everybody for
Adirondack Astronomy again. Wind can be a pain here too in the Champlain Valley. Thanks for the tips, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I have a question about the heat packs, though.
Yeah, that would change the viewing, wouldn't it? Or
would you get any kind of heat ripple from that? Or I suppose once the heat once it normalizes in the scope should be okay. But I don't know. What would you think?
There's a fine line. Like I assume part of that is just to keep I'm assuming dew or possible frost off the primary. Yeah. So you just have to stay slightly above the dew point, and if you can kind of manage that, you're okay. But too much heat, you might have some weird currents happening.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
It's because we don't get that much dew here, so I was really surprised when I moved here. It's about 13 years ago now. I used to have dew shields and all this kind of business for my refractors, and I threw it away. I've never used it again. We just don't get that much dew. If there's that much dew here, typically we can't really do observing anyway. Like we've had nights where we almost get like this ground fog that forms, and it's so. Yeah, it's just like the conditions are so poor that we don't get it. But one of the great parts about being out here and getting used to the cold is that when I go back east and go observe with my friends, they're all freezing to death by midnight, and I'm just not even putting my coat on. Like that's literally the case, you know. I'll be fine, you know, and they're all bedding down because they're just frozen. But I'm there and I'm kind of sort of dressed for observing in the summer here, where it can get down to 0 degrees even in the middle of summer, and so I'm good. You know, 10 degrees is nothing now.
Yeah, I knew a guy from Arizona, and he gets out here and he's like, I never heard of a dew shield before I got here.
Yeah.
It's too dry there. I was gonna say, isn't the winter time? That's probably pretty dry. I know it was in Ohio. It's just not like that moisture in the air, really.
Yeah, it's pretty dry, eh, Shane?
Oh yeah, it's super dry, especially in the summertime.
In the summer, interesting. Okay, unlike Cleveland, it's very, very humid in the summer there. Do heaters work? Only just warm enough. Okay.
Oh yeah, as they have high humidity. Yeah. So
that'll make a difference.
It depends. Like the answer would be different if we were in like Florida.
Yeah.
You know, 90, you know, 90 Fahrenheit, 90% humidity.
Yeah.
All right, well, go ahead. Sorry.
There's nice skies in Florida. I've gone observing down there, so yeah. It's
there are nice skies. Okay.
And the trick in Florida is if you're going to Florida and want to go observing, look for where they're doing turtle protection, because where they do turtle protection, they can't have the exterior lights around in certain places. So you want to, and you can even find like we stayed at just like a regular hotel, had nothing to do with astronomy or anything, but it was in like where they're doing like turtle protection. So it didn't have any lights around it at all. So I had talked to somebody down there and sorted this out before I went. And so I was able to go and be right in a dark spot. Even though it wasn't really anything to do with astronomy, it was still dark there.
Yeah, I don't know why those folks and the astronomy folks don't team up and go, yeah, let's make it dark again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be awesome.
That'd be, I think we should do that. All right, what do you got? 26 degrees. That's in the southern hemisphere, so that's your latitude, right, Cliff? I think that's what he means.
Or are you talking temperature? Because that'd be Celsius, which
I have found it's well, I don't know.
Could be both.
Tell us, Cliff. And I saw another one there.
Yeah, Clark.
Sanibel Island.
Sanibel Island.
Yeah, that's right. That's where I was actually.
In Florida.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Done some astronomy. Yeah.
So, and I think it's because the turtles, when the eggs hatch, they head toward the moon and the water.
Yeah.
But if it's light, they're gonna get turned around and go to the wrong place. And what did he say?
David, last time I was in Florida, a bloody huge croc came up from the pond. Never again. It's LA for me now.
Yeah, you gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for the gators there for sure. Like it's no joke. I get out of the car and almost stepped on like a 16-foot gator one day.
Oh God. We were watching a video, guys chasing one with his garbage, and he caught it and he just took it down to
Garbage
like
can.
it was a regular event where he is like, oh crap. Okay. We don't have them here.
DDNH. Any advice on taking digital pocket cam photos through a telescope?
Good question, and thanks for joining us.
No. I've never done that, so I don't have any good advice there.
I've watched people do it. They'll go up to the telescope, they'll point the camera down the eyepiece and get, well, now it's the moon usually, and it's like, I look and I'm like, wow, that's so good. Just blows me away how good. Just point and shoot and get this picture of the moon. Have you seen it? I don't think you've been out, but have you guys seen that? Have you seen people do that?
Yeah, I did that when like digital cameras first came out, but it's really fussy to get like the angle just right. So it might be easier now with some of the cell phones and that sort of thing. But yeah, mostly we're just looking, you know.
The only problem with doing it with a cell phone is that it makes enough light to blow your night vision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. With the camera, one of the keys is to get like an adapter so that, you know, you put it on the camera and then it allows it to go into the focuser of the telescope. And then that gets you past all of the finicky angles and all of that sort of stuff. So like DSLRs, you can get adapters to make that happen pretty easily. You know, other things, I'm not too sure what's available.
So I have a question for you. Are you folks in an area where either like at the library or at the local astronomy club, they have sort of a lending telescope arrangement? Like our club here, we probably have been mainly donated to about 30 telescopes, and they allow the members, and I'm saying, you know, membership a year is like $35 for the whole family. And if you're a member, you can borrow a telescope from the club. I have a 10-inch f4.7 Dobsonian here. That's a club scope. And let's say I wanted to trade it out for something else. It would be very easy to say, hey, I want to try something else. I mean, that's a great way to like really get a feel for what you like and what things look like. And do you like a reflector or a refractor? I mean, do you guys have stuff up there like that? Does your club have scopes that you can kind of swap out and borrow?
Yeah, for sure. Our local club has, I don't even know how many telescopes they have right now, but probably 4 or 5 that are free to the members to borrow. They also have like when 4 or 5 kind of traditional telescopes, like mostly Newtonians, but a couple Cassegrains. They also have 2 Lunt hydrogen alpha telescopes for solar observing, which is quite nice.
That's great.
Yeah, which is, you know, that is a benefit of some clubs. But one thing, you know, that I also would like to mention about clubs is, you know, when you go out and you observe with the members of the clubs, it's an awesome opportunity to see some other gear, you know, to look through other telescopes, to look through other eyepieces. And even that experience can really help you kind of figure out what you like, you know, and where you want to spend your money.
Yeah, I always recommend star parties to people thinking about getting involved. Yeah, don't buy stuff. Just come on out and look through all kinds of other people's equipment and ask questions. You want to be nice. You want to be careful. Some of that equipment is either kind of special or kind of expensive. Mm-hmm. But most astronomy people are very, you know, they like showing off their equipment. Oh yeah, this is my thing, and they'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
like car guys do with their cars.
Yeah.
Gearheads, I guess they call them, right?
Yeah.
What you got, David?
Oh, you can get a cheap hairdryer online too that charges from a laptop. Point the bugger down the tube from the top and bingo, clean mirror in a minute.
It's the eyepiece that always gets it for me. I'm looking at I breathed on the darn thing.
Yeah, but
you gotta be, I'm going to say this though, you got to be really careful doing that, because if you have dirt on the eyepiece or whatever the optics are, you can bake it on there with a hair dryer. So you can actually buy a dew buster. It's called a dew buster hair dryer. It looks like a hair dryer, but it has a super low setting. So you want to get something that has a much lower setting than a regular hair dryer, because that can damage the optics.
Yeah,
I did not know
of course,
that.
if you're pointing it down a 10-inch daub, it's not going to be that hot by the time it gets to the mirror. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that would
Yeah.
probably be fine, but then the tendency might be to try to clear the eyepieces or other things as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to cause some trouble.
Got it.
Okay.
All right.
Cliff was talking about latitude. Oh,
Latitude.
well, I think he's talking about our latitude here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
In Florida. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks.
We are higher latitude than Florida.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
here.
at 50. We're at 50 here where we are.
Yeah.
I think Cleveland's 40, 42.
Yeah.
And we're at 30 something, I think.
No, we're at about 27 to 24, depending on where in California you are.
Okay. Cool.
David, he
What?
needs a phone. Nexie holds the phone.
Put the JD away, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, Cliff. Hey, why don't you shoot a link to Facebook page where you have a lot of your pictures, or someplace else where you keep your pictures, because people might want to see that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, Cliff, I have 10 scopes to lend out from my club. Yeah. And
he's a car guy.
He's a car guy too. Yeah. So yeah. Do you have cars to loan out? There you go.
He might.
Yeah. But
what else you got? I saw one more.
Oh.
Okay, not hot. Yeah.
Oh, he's just talking about using the moving air to clear the dew.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been at this for a while, and I know it's late for you guys. I'm gonna do we talk about some stellar events this coming week. That's November 26th through December 3rd on the right now we're in the middle of the Andromeda meteor shower peak, and you're going to want to look after midnight, and there might be some moon in there though, and it is waning to last quarter. With only 5 an hour, not that exciting. They do come from the comet Biela, so not spectacular. There is a meteor shower happening though. Globe at Night is going on. They just started yesterday, and they go through December the 4th. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you want to look at Perseus, and in the southern hemisphere, you look at Grus. And what you do is you go outside, you take a picture of the target constellation, and you report what you see to the Globe at Night website. It's a nice citizen science project that anybody can participate in, and they just announced their 2022 dates, so I'm really excited about that. November 27th is the last quarter moon. On the 30th, it's called National Give Space Day, and I'm like, is that a space thing or something else? I don't know what that means. If you know, let me know. On December 1st, we have the weekly space hangout, and it's the topic is An Outsider's Guide, Future of Physics with Dr. Stefan Alexander. On December 2nd, Mars and the Moon are in conjunction. December 3rd we're back to our Friday night show, and I usually talk about this later, but December 4th, there is a total solar eclipse. It's very remote though. Like almost nobody's going to be able to see it because it goes pretty much over the South Pole. So there is one. It's not going to be very exciting for most of us, unless they have cameras trained on it. That might be interesting. We do have a couple of ongoing events and activities we're starting to talk about. One is called Unfold the Universe. This is about the James Webb Space Telescope, and it's a contest. And what they want you to do is think about what that telescope might reveal to us. And then you take your image, and you get you and your image in a picture. And I think it's for everybody, because I saw adults and kids with pictures. And that deadline for submission is December the 18th. The other thing is Design Moon Digging Robots, and this is a Lunabotics Junior contest. This is for K through 12. They're looking for young engineers to help design new robot concepts for an excavation mission on the moon. And if you are not a K through 12 person, you may be a judge. The winner from each category will be announced March 29th in 2022. Jeff.
Okay, if you or someone you know has done something interesting involving space exploration, science, or astronomy, we'd love to share our live. Join us again next Friday night, December 3rd. Dr. Pamela Gay will be here.
Yes, and we're looking forward to future guests. We actually do have Josh Carlson coming back to discuss the second space race that's currently ongoing between the U.S. and the China-Russia collaboration. And we do have a few more people we're talking to. And heck, we could have Chris and Shane come back sometime. That would be wonderful. We have any more questions?
Yep. Oh, Cliff said that he's got a Corvette. Yep.
Okay.
I don't think he lends it out, though.
Yeah, probably not. I wouldn't.
And can't believe you don't know.
Oh, he's talking about an adapter for the phone. Got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just question the amount of light that those things throw off when you've got them turned on. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I guess you could make a hood for it. But
yeah.
and Cliff is saying that it's a Celestron phone holder.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for collaborating. Thanks for everyone for being here. David, Cliff. Who do we have? Who else do we have? Clark, M, and
let's see.
Scroll through. DDNH. You read them. You can see them. I can't see them.
Okay, yeah. Let's come up from the top here. We've got Michael Taylor, Anthony Albence, Flying Martini Hurricane, Mark Brunel.
That's my favorite.
And we've got someone else here. Came in.
Yes, there's one. Isn't that one?
Yeah, Ryan McKee.
Ryan McKee.
Cool.
And you mentioned Clark M. And
really appreciate you being here with us.
Yep.
Chris, Shane, thank you so much.
It's been thanks really for having me.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Really fun. Yeah. All right. So have a great week. We'll see you on December 3rd. Good night, folks.
Thank you.